So please tell me the story.
So, without my really knowing it, I'm in public relations, and I had met uh, John Bryant as an associate of uh, a gentleman out of Washington, D.C., that I was doing some PR for.
Okay.
His name was Harvey, and he had a beautiful restaurant in Malibu called Joffrey's.
Okay.
And I met John there. And shortly after that, I remember John had dropped by my office, and I believe his intention at that time was to sell sportswear.
Okay.
He had been an actor, and I knew him from Joffrey's, and I was warm and welcoming to him. At the time, I had a large office on Pico Boulevard that I shared with my ex-husband. My company had the front, and my ex-husband had the back, and we had a medium-sized conference room in the middle. And I remember John telling me he needed an office, and I volunteered, use this office, it's perfectly fine with me.
Okay.
I have a background of having made it all on my own and nobody ever having my back. And the religious training that I got was really encouraged me to have somebody's back, because I know what it felt like for myself to be without any support, so to speak, or training. So that's all I remember about John.
Okay.
25, 30 years go by,
Okay.
and last year in the springtime, John contacted me. I mean, I had known that he had gone forward and was creating Operation Hope, and I know that he was working in the area of finance, and particularly to help African Americans understand how understanding the world of finance could enhance their life. And I know
Right.
that he was going on and doing some very big things. And that was the end of my memory of John, till he
Okay.
called me spring of last year and told me that
So
he,
if I may interject, so when he was using the office, you had no idea that he was sleeping in his
right,
Jeep at that time?
right,
Wow.
and I was
Okay.
going to get to that.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
that's okay. So when he called me,
Okay.
he kind of called me an angel, and he wanted to know how I was, and I've become fairly successful in my own right. And John said, "You don't know this, but you changed the trajectory of my life by a simple kindness." And I said, "What?" He said, "Well, you didn't know this, but when I was using that office, I was sleeping in my Jeep and cleaning up in the bathroom in your office, and it made a big difference in my life." And I don't know if you know this, but he gave me a gift of $25,000.
Did not know that.
I have never been given a gift of $25,000 as a thank you.
Did not know that.
Now, given how I am, I've always bootstrapped. I've had my two kids on welfare. I'm first generation immigrant. I was raised in Miami, and I was told by my teachers and my parents that the world was my oyster or bowl of cherries, and go out and get it. And I believed it. And I'm very driven and very interested in being my best. So, the kind of character that I am, even though he gave me the $25,000, I couldn't accept it as a gift. I had to work for it, because I'm a natural worker.
Right.
I had to work for it. So I ended up using a bit of it with one of my PR associates to promote his book and to promote his name.
Wow.
So that's just something it's hard to give to me. And the fact that he thanked me for that little gesture of kindness was a real eye-opener, and one of very, very special moments in my life. And maybe that special moment that I created for him has been mirrored in what he gave back to me. But it really showed me that a simple act of kindness, can really change somebody's life.
Right.
And consequently, I really feel acknowledged, because I do like to help people step up or go where they want to go.
Right.
I really want to help people win.
Right.
Of course, when I was younger, I was much more scrappy, and I didn't have the level of enlightenment or even the aplomb to know how to treat people well. But life has taught me that. But what I did for John
Yes.
was unexpected, and what he did for me was very unexpected.
Wow.
So I particularly really try as best I can. I have loads of flaws, and I'm not as sensitive as I could be, but I do try to brighten, you might say, smaller people's lives by being considerate or gentle or thoughtful. So this is the way this has turned out, and now John, through John, without my knowing it, has brought me to your attention. And not only am I flattered that you think that the little gesture I made is inspiring, I guess it really was to him, but the fact that you and I are going to have a chance to get involved in helping LA homeless
Yes.
is my particular passion.
Wow.
And whether you realize it or not, it has given me a kind of focus I have been searching for.
Wow. And that is what is amazing to me, that when I initially called you, I had no idea your stance on homelessness or what you thought about it or any of that. So I'm watching an interview. So John Hope Bryant and his interview with Cam Newton brought the bishop to your doorstep. So I called you and left a message, and you called me back, and I was in the doctor's office, and you had no clue our bishop was trying to call you.
Right.
And I really couldn't talk at the moment, and you said, what is the call pertaining to?
Right.
And I sort of got the impression, I said, oh, wow, I hope she's not offended or anything.
Hard-boiled.
And here we are. And it sort of reminded me of the chairman of my board of directors is Jewish. He's a Jewish attorney, John Eisen, by the way. And I went to a homeowners association meeting in Sherman Oaks. I had my son with me, who is black and Hispanic. We were the only minorities in the room, about 200 people there. And so when we got ready to leave, I went up and introduced myself to John, and he gave me his card, and I gave him my card. And when we left out of the room, I said to my son, wow, that guy really didn't like me, did he? He said, no, he didn't. And about 3 or 4 days later, John called me, took me to lunch, and a couple of weeks later, he contributed $25,000 to Yes We Can Worship Center for our homeless project. And now he's the chairman of our board of directors. So I hear your name, and then John says, Hope Bryant, that is, says she's still alive. So I Googled you, looked you up, and I said, she's in public relations. I said, I want to hear her story, because I meet lots and lots of women on the streets who are hurting. And the housing that we're doing, the tiny homes project that Norberto Nardi, the famous architect, and I have embarked upon, is transformational. We don't want to just give people a handout. We want to give them a hand up. We want to change their lives.
Right.
And a story like yours, a self-made woman, can inspire someone and make a difference. So that is my initial reason for contacting.
Thank you. And while I was abrupt in finding out who you are, I get probably 25 or 30 calls, telemarketing calls.
I can
a day.
imagine. Yes.
And
Yes. Yes. I know the feeling.
It
Yep.
is my commitment to answer all phone calls. I have a hard time not returning emails and phone calls. And it may be a little unusual, but occasionally I'm really grateful that I didn't ignore that email or didn't ignore that phone call,
Right.
because I have found gems
Wow.
and miracles.
Wow.
And I know I'm on the other side of people ignoring my calls sometimes, and I just don't know how people don't return calls.
Wow.
So one of my pieces of encouragement is, well, I'll tell you what somebody told me when I was 27. They told me, when the train of opportunity comes by, whether you're packed or not, jump on. Which means if you're interested in making your life look like your dreams, take the initiative. Don't hesitate. Make decisions. You can always undo them. And I'm always open to taking phone calls. I'm always open to hearing what's going on out there. And I'll decide for myself, you know,
Yes.
how I'll respond.
Right.
Saying yes to John Bryant was not difficult. It was somebody who needed something. I had the space, and I was happy to do it. And I'm happy to do it because, like I said, my religious training had something to do with being comfortable helping out. And it's one of the things about this country that I think that when you have a degree of comfort or you're capable of meeting your initial responsibilities, I think it's really important to help other people see their life with a brighter life, a brighter light. So,
And may I ask, what was your religious training?
kind of unconventional. A combination of meditation and Buddhism. I mean, I was baptized Presbyterian.
Okay.
I grew up in Miami, and I had Bible school in a
Well, you have
Baptist
something in
church.
common with your president. Trump says he's a Presbyterian.
Oh yeah.
No pun
In label
intended.
only.
I don't want to have to go off camera, you all. So just that was a joke. So he did say he was a Presbyterian, but but I think that whatever the training was, you've turned out to be a remarkable person. When I saw you outside, you have a light, you have an anointing, and there's a magnetism, and I really appreciate that. One other thing about John Hope Bryant, before we cut the interview off, and that is he basically moved to Atlanta because he wanted to be around one of my heroes, and that is the great 93-year-old ambassador, Andrew Young, one of the
Right.
greatest men I've ever met in my entire lifetime. I hold him in high esteem along with the great Reverend Hosea Williams and the great James Scott Manning, who is my father. So I thank John for bringing us together, even though he didn't know it, because I don't know John. I just know of him. I've followed his Operation Hope. I've read his books, and I know the importance of financial literacy,
Right.
which he talks about all the time. I
Right,
think.
and that was the book that I helped in part promote.
Wow.
He has so many great things happening
Yes.
that he didn't really need our attention that much, but we decided to kind of put a spotlight on some of the people and the organizations that he was helping. I remember that was something that we were able to do.
Well, before we go off, that is, you have decided to talk with me about the Tiny Homes Project and how we can bring attention to this cause. Because what I'd like for the Tiny Homes Project to become the habitat for humanity.
I love that.
But for the homeless.
Yes, I love that.
Yes.
And I've been using that to tell people what I'm about to get involved in.
Wow. And so there we have it. Any other last final thoughts, encouraging words before I cut the camera off you'd like to say? Again, thank you for the interview. I think that you said some amazing things there.
Thank you. I think life has two sides. It has the light and it has the dark. And I think we make a choice about what line we're going to stand in. And I like to encourage people to look towards the light and to count their blessings. And you know, today it's very trendy to be grateful. And I'm glad for that. And I think kindness and gratitude, the need for gratitude, has probably come out of some of the difficult things we're all experiencing in our life in this modern, fast-moving world that we have to keep up with and integrate everything that's happening. And I think it's actually important to have guidance, and I think it's important to practice faith. I really do.
You did say that at one point you had 2 kids on welfare.
I did.
So from welfare to an office in Beverly Hills.
Right.
That must have been a tough way.
Right.
I will ask you, how did you even get involved with public relations? How did that happen?
Well, I married an actor, and that was a mistake. I didn't want a white picket fence. I was very young. I didn't have a lot of instruction. Like most women from broken homes, you kind of get into early, and he was quite a bit older than me.
Okay.
One time, the program director of ABC Radio met me, and he told me he sensed I was seriously intended. And that was true.
Okay.
I had a difficult upbringing, and I loved school, and I was able to kind of run the school and be an outstanding girl and get awards and so forth. When I became an adult, I didn't understand why everybody talked about how they hated school when I loved school. But school was a place that I could be myself and sort of express myself in without the difficulty that I experienced in my home. So I did come out in the world believing that I could make a difference and that I could create for myself what I wanted. And the mindfulness and the Buddhism and the understanding of faith and East-West philosophy allowed me to express myself in a more positive way. So I started working for a man in public relations. I also worked for a magazine. When I decided to get married and have children, I quit working for somebody.
Okay.
And at home, somebody taught me how to do public relations from home while my children were small. And then when I got divorced, I parlayed that into the career that I now have. I was 27 when I started. I'm 78 now.
78?
Yeah. And
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And for 47 years.
So ask Attorney John Eisen, I hate to interrupt, chairman of my board, he asked me about how old is she. I said early 60s probably.
Yeah, yeah.
78.
Yeah, I'll
Wow.
be 78 in 2 months. So, longevity, faith, health, wisdom, living well, those have all been things that I think I've learned or been given good genes. And in California, we're sort of the capital of everything new, in the world. And a lot of that I've paid attention to. But
Do you ever think of remarrying?
I've been married a bunch of times.
No, well, is it on the agenda now?
No.
Never again, or maybe?
No,
Never say never?
I'm happy. I'm happy being by myself now.
Okay, so she did. That's not a total rule out for anyone watching.
I've been married a bunch of times.
Okay. Well,
Happily married
haven't
a
we
bunch of
all?
times.
By the way, I'm divorced also, so I know the feeling.
Okay.
And but I'm still looking.
I think most of my husbands would love to have me back.
I'm sure they
Some
would.
of them are no longer living, but
Okay. Wow. And only 2 kids.
yes, two wonderful boys.
2 wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, if they came, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I've read. Have you written a book by any chance?
I have 30,000 words written, and I'm still. It's hard telling your life story, because you have so many other memories that you want to write
Right,
down. And for years, people have told me I should write a book. And so finally, during COVID, I decided, maybe I should. And I guess I've been working on it about 3 or 4 years. I haven't picked it up for almost a year because there's so much there and there's so much more I need to tell. And it's hard to decide what to tell and what you can't. Of course, I'm a little concerned about some of my endeavors and adventures and how they might hit my kids and what
Right,
they may
okay.
think of mommy.
Right.
I sent them something the other day, a meme via social media that said, "Weird moms create character."
Okay.
So we're all a bunch of free thinkers and independent, but I try to think of myself as like a neo-traditionalist. I've got down-to-earth values, but I want to look at things with a new eye.
I read something that said I think that you pretty much invented the term supermodel. Is that true?
No, I didn't invent it, but I worked with the world's earliest supermodels.
Okay, I did read that. I did my research.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I do.
Well, thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mrs. Kip Morrison, and if you don't know her, just Google her and Google Operation Hope.
Yes.
John Hope Bryant, and you'll see what we're talking about. Take a look at the tinyhomesproject.com. I hope Norberto Nardi, the famous architect, and his wife Marlene are watching, and I hope you will meet them very
I
soon.
would like to.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go off. Keep the faith, everybody. Keep the faith.